Hello, my name is Spencer Buckland. I am the President of Emergency Response Assistance Canada, also known as ERAC. ERAC is a not-for-profit organization that provides emergency preparedness and response services across Canada to over 250 oil and gas producers, wholesalers, retailers, and carriers of dangerous goods shipped by road and rail. Under the Transport Canada TDG Acts and Regulations, each of our plan participants who are considered the shippers of dangerous goods require an approved emergency response assistance plan, also known as an ERAP. ERAC has been providing the necessary emergency preparedness and response support for our plan participants, ERAPs, since 1997. We respond to transportation emergencies involving tanker trucks or rail cars carrying liquid petroleum gases, also known as LPG, and flammable liquids. In addition, we respond to stationary tanks that contain greater than 450 liters of LPG. Plan participants have their ERAP activated by calling 24/7 emergency call center number, which is located on the shipping document, along with their ERAP number. This number may be called by carriers, first responders, or the plan participants themselves. Once a plan participant ERAP has been activated, the Emergency Call Center dispatches ERAC trained and certified remedial measures advisors, technical advisors, and one or more emergency response teams to the incident scene, where they will report into the incident command system to begin tactical planning and operations. Our responders work on behalf of our plan participants through ERAC, our environmental emergency response contractors, industrial emergency response teams, or independent response individuals on retainer contract to the ERAC. ERAC is dedicated to the safety of each and every ERAC responder. In addition, we are committed to the ongoing quality improvement of all of our preparedness and response activities, which support our plan participants and their ERAP legislative requirements. The following short video segments will involve an LPG truck-to-truck transfer and rail car-to-rail car transfer. This is intended to give you a brief overview of our ERAC emergency response tactics, which will address damage assessment, static electricity control, product transfer, flaring and purging, release from the scene, and documentation.
The first priority is to ensure the safety of responders and the safety of those around them. They are looking for any potential hazard, including everything from uneven ground to overhead electrical lines and potential ignition sources. They will make sure their gas detector is bump tested and calibrated, and they'll go in to constantly monitor for H2S, CO2, and LEL levels.
We're not sure. All we know is there's product on it. But
Once inside the scene, they will map out the area and draw on their incident map all the relative information collected. After that, they will assess the container itself, looking for any damage in the form of gouges, scrapes, scores, dents, cracks, holes, etc., to determine if the container has been compromised. Depending on the shape and orientation of the container, product might have to be pumped out or moved somehow to another container for transport.
So we'll have our discussion now. We take a good look at the wind. Which side do we want to go on? Where do we put our equipment?
From all information collected, a plan is put in place that reflects the best and safest way to react to the incident. A proper damage and site safety assessment will lead to the best solution.
If you have a nipple, just put it on the snap.
In this example, it has been determined that product from the affected vehicle needs to be transferred to another container and be taken from the scene. At this point, work begins making sure all the necessary resources are available to complete the plan. The site safety plan records the plan of action from the upwind side when possible. Roles and responsibilities are assigned to all team members, and all physical, chemical, and environmental hazards that responders might be exposed to on site are studied.
We're right now talking about switching the two teams up.
Then the action plan is created and enacted, which will include the use of personal protective equipment, the roles of each person, radio signals and hand signals that might be needed to communicate, as well as muster points that would be needed in the event that something unexpected happens during the response. The plan is reviewed and signed off on by the incident command. At this time, the team is ready to go in and enact the action plan. After a complete damage assessment, zones are set up with a cold zone, a warm zone, and a hot zone. The zones are usually delineated and controlled by natural barriers, or the use of cones or tape to cordon off the areas. The hot zone is set up around the damaged container with no ignition sources permitted in it. The warm zone and cold zone is where equipment is temporarily stored and limits access to other first responders who are not required directly at the incident scene to ensure the safety of all involved. Prior to any work, the team does gas monitoring, making sure no harmful or hazardous gases exist in enough concentration to affect workers or anyone else in the area. Another key safety process is to ensure that bonding and grounding is done. Bonding is done to equalize the charge between the damaged vessel, the vessel product will be transferred into, and the pump in between that will use to transfer the product. Bonding reduces any risk of static electricity discharge, which could be the source of ignition if there is any leaking gas. Grounding is done to equalize the bonded circuits with the earth. Once everything has been grounded and bonded, hoses are laid out and appropriate fittings are used to connect them to the damaged container. Hoses run from the damaged car to a pump, and from there the product is pumped into the receiving container. The role of the team members is to ensure there are no leaks during this process.
Hang on a second there.
To that end, great care and time is taken to be certain all pressure equipment is pressure tested prior to transferring any product. Nitrogen, or another inert gas, is pressured through the pump and hoses to check for and ensure there are no leaks before the transfer of the actual flammable product is conducted. This is done to guard against any potential leaks which become a possible source of fire.
Got a fire extinguisher on that side.
The crew's goal is to guarantee a complete closed system with no leaks. Once it is determined there are no leaks, Incident Command is asked for approval to transfer the product. Once transfer is complete, we proceed to purging and flaring. This process is used to make sure there are no residual products left in the containers. The presence of any product can still run the risk of ignition causing further damage or even injuries. If flaring is required, the crew will flare off the damaged car by hooking up a portable flare stack to the hoses and opening up the valves and igniting that flare to bring the container down to zero pressure, eliminating any risk of flammable gas remaining in the container. As well, depressurizing cleans out the hoses that were used in the transfer of the product. Once the flaring process is complete, workers will purge the equipment with nitrogen or another inert gas, so they are completely ready to be transported elsewhere for repairs. Once the container and hoses are purged, a request will be made to Incident Command for the responders to be released from the scene. If granted, crews will gather and store all equipment used. The entire exercise and actions need to be fully documented in incident logs. After the crew has been released, there is a full debriefing with the response team to determine what went well and to discuss any opportunities to improve the process.
In closing, I am proud to be part of Emergency Response Assistance Canada. Our responders have proven why we are seen as leaders in effective emergency preparedness and response. ERAC is always ready to respond anywhere in Canada, whether it is an LPG, transportation, or stationary tank, or flammable liquids rail emergency. Our highly trained remedial measures advisors, technical advisors, and emergency response teams are there for you. On behalf of our ERAC board, directors, and myself, I want to thank our hundreds of oil and gas producers, wholesalers, retailers, and carrier plan participants for entrusting ERAC with their ERAC preparedness and response needs. I also want to thank each and every one of our dedicated responders. You make a difference in ensuring from coast to coast effective, safe response on behalf of all of our plan participants. Thank you.